A very warm welcome to the Lockdown LitFest, everybody, and a warm welcome if you're just joining us for the first time, and a very warm welcome if you are a repeat offender. We're delighted to have you back in our wonderful virtual studio. Award-winning best-selling novelist Gianrico Carofiglio was born in Bari in 1961 and worked for many years as a prosecutor specializing in organized crime. He was appointed advisor of the anti-Mafia committee in the Italian parliament in 2007 and served as a senator from 2008 to 2013. As an author, he's best known for the Guido Guerrieri crime series, Involuntary Witness, which was translated by Patrick Cray, A Walk in the Dark, Reasonable Doubts, Temporary Perfections, and A Fine Line, all published in the UK by wonderful Bitter Lemon Press. His other novels include the stupendous The Silence of the Wave, and his books have sold more than 5 million copies in Italy and have been translated into no fewer than 27 languages worldwide. It is an enormous pleasure and great privilege to be able to say, Gianrico Carofiglio, a very warm welcome to the Lockdown LitFest. Come stai? Come stai?
Very, very happy to be here with you again.
Well, it's very lovely to have you here. What I'd like to do is to talk to you a little bit about your career as a writer, and perhaps, if you will permit me, con permesso, if you can explain how your working life as a prosecutor informs the crime. So informs the crime novels. So can we start with Involuntary Witness, which was first published in Italy as Testimone inconsapevoli. Sorry, I have terrible Italian. What was it in you, Gianrico, that made you think, I could write a crime series, I could write about a detective, and what did you think it is, also lots of questions about Guido, that your audience takes so much to, warm so much to, like so much? Let's start, please, with what was it that first made you put pen to paper and write a novel?
First thing I have to say is that when I began to write Involuntary Witness, I was not thinking about writing a crime. I was thinking about writing a mainstream novel. I would call it an atypical coming-of-age novel, late coming-of-age novel, because the main character is very close to his 40s. But the novel is mostly about an incredible changing in his life. And the courtroom drama is just, or was just in my mind, a tool to talk about the life of this man, of this lawyer. And when I finished the book, I thought that it was a mainstream novel. And after a few weeks, a very important Italian journalist, literary Italian journalist, wrote that this book was, how can I say, he said, the best legal thriller ever published in Italy. And I was really, really, how can I say, I had mixed feelings, because it was a huge compliment, but at the same time, I didn't think that I had written a legal thriller. And after a very short while, I could see how the label legal thriller can work with the sales of the book. And so I became very flexible about this topic. If you want to call it a legal thriller, it's okay with me. But I'm kidding. But it was very interesting. It was the first time in my life, like as a writer, that I could understand that a book can be many different things depending on who is reading the book. You find in a book what you were looking for, or it depends on the moment of your life or your experience, your professional experience, your personal experience. And in that book and in many other books that I have written, I think you can find, of course, the courtroom drama, the legal thriller, how we call it, but you also find a coming-of-age novel, kind of psychological story. I remember a female reader in a presentation, that after a very long debate about this book and what it it really was. She said, "You really don't understand this book. It's a love story," and it is. I remember the New Yorker that wrote about this book. They said that the book is at the same time a legal thriller, a philosophical treatise, and love story, and I absolutely agree.
Is that what you intended to write? You said you wanted to write it as mainstream. Did you envisage, did you foresee that it had to have a love story, that it was going to be a courtroom drama? The question I'm really asking is the book you wrote the book you intended to write?
Yes, I would say yes, because I wanted to talk about this dramatic changing in this person's life. I wanted to write a story about fall and rise. This man, Guido Guerrieri, at the very beginning of the story, is broken. His wife leaves him, and she's right, because he's doing a life that is really, really poor, and he falls in a very deep depression. And he's really unhappy. It's more than unhappy. Nothing has any meaning anymore for him. And then he meets this client, this black man that is charged with a murder accusation. And it looks like he has no hope, because he can't pay. The evidence is not that strong, but usually if you can't pay, you'd better choose a very short solution. We call short trial in Italy. You accept a trial without cross-examination. That means a trial with what the police and the prosecutor have found during the investigation, and usually you are convicted. And at the beginning, Guido suggests to this man to choose this opportunity. That means a very strong discount in the sentencing. And then he understands that this is wrong, and he has to accept the responsibility to defend this man. And the story of the trial is a sort of metaphor of the changing in the personal life of this man. And so, yes, I think this is exactly what I wanted to write about.
Gianrico, I'd like to pick up on something you said there about you have to enjoy your character. You have to understand your character. You have to like your character in order for the audience to like your character. Can you talk us through that, please?
I would say that you have to love your characters in different ways, of course. To explain this idea, I can say something about different kind of novels that sometimes we read. There are some novels that are really page turners with a very, very good plot. You want to go ahead and you want to see what's going on, and you want to see how the story is finishing. But when you finish, when you leave the book, you forget it very, very soon. If somebody asks you something about that book and about its characters, you really don't remember, because you don't care. You didn't care while reading, and you don't care, of course, after. Then there are other books. The plot must be good. It's important for me, let's say it. But in these books, you find characters that are not bidimensional like in the other kind. You find characters that are persons. You care for them. You are part of their lives. And when the book is over, the book is not over. It is exactly in that moment and after that the book is doing its job, and the characters are doing their job. That means working in your brain, asking questions, suggesting solutions, creating doubts. That is, from my point of view, the main goal of the good literature. doubt.
It's rather beautifully described. Thank you, Gianrico. I'm interested to know how much your real life, how much your professional life as a prosecutor, as an anti-mafia judge, informs your fiction. What rules do you set yourself, or have you set yourself, about what you can write about and what you cannot write about, what you don't allow yourself to write about?
First of all, you have to be very, very aware that if you are writing a legal thriller, a realistic novel, you must be perfect from a procedural point of view.
Yes.
You can't afford any kind of mistake, because mistakes in procedure are a betrayal of the deal with the reader.
Yeah.
Because the reader who begins to read this sort of book is confident that the book is about real life. That means real procedure and real behavior of lawyers, cops, defendants, judges. And there is something that prevents me from reading many of these kind of books. After 2, 3, 5, 10 pages, I always find mistakes. And for this reason, I can't go on, because the world, the fictional world of the book is all of a sudden destroyed. Everything falls. And I feel very strongly this responsibility towards the readers. And so, yes, of course, this kind of books can be written only by a professional. I want to be very clear about this. It's impossible to write a real courtroom drama. I'm talking about a procedural courtroom drama by somebody that is not or has not been a professional. And this is the main connection between my life as a prosecutor and my life as a writer, part of this life as a writer. Then, of course, you have the experience, the practical experience, the stories, the characters that you have met during that life. That is very, very powerful material for good fictional stories. This doesn't mean that this doesn't happen with me, that you take stories and characters from real world and put them in novels. But this means that having so many stories and so many characters, you can use them to cook your meal. That is something different. It's like baking. You have many things that you put in the cake according to the recipe, but you have at the end it's something completely different from what you had at the beginning.
Well described. Many, many years ago, here in England, in Great Britain, in the United Kingdom, we are familiar with a certain aspect of Italian crime dramas through the television adaptation of Andrea Camilleri's Montalbano, obviously set in Sicily, specifically in Sicily, and happily not dubbed, so we get to hear Sicilianized Italian. And many years ago, I spoke to Andrea about the dynamic he felt, and he had very firm views on what a television adaptation should and shouldn't do for his novels, his Montalbano novels. I know that you also have, your works have also been adapted as the basis for a very popular television series in Italy. Can you tell us what your experience of adaptation was, how involved you were, how that works?
First of all, we have to say that Camilleri's novel and the TV adaptations are not realistic. Let's say it, because
right.
Otherwise we are talking about different things. It is a very, very interesting kind of writing, kind of comedy with some parts of drama, but it's not about how the real world works. This is important.
I don't think anybody has ever mistaken Salvo Montalbano as a real policeman.
Yeah, exactly.
However well played by Luca Zingaretti, of course.
Well played. He is a very, very good actor, and Camilleri was a genius. But it is, and and some of my novels have been adapted for TV or cinema. Not always with good results, let's say frankly. And two TV movies that have been done from the first two Guerreri's novel, well, are easily forgettable, let's say it. And now there is a very interesting project for a new series, and I'm very confident that it could be something better. Then we are also writing a series from other novels of mine with this character of Carabinieri Marshal Fenoglio. That it looks very interesting, the project, and I'm very, very optimistic about this. Then we have also a project for a movie from the Silence of the Wave, and a very, very, very interesting project for a movie from 3 o'clock in the morning. That is not at all a genre novel. It's a real coming of age novel, and it's going to be published in the UK and USA at the beginning of next year. And we have a very interesting international project for a movie. It depends. It depends also on the luck that you have with this kind of projects. I'm optimistic for the future. For the past, so it was not fantastic.
3 o'clock in the morning, I think, is your translation of the Italian title. I think is this the one that's going to be called The Measure of Time in the UK and the US?
No, it's another one.
Another one. Good heavens.
Yes.
Then forgive me.
No problem. It's this is a novel about the relationship between a father and a son that really they don't know each other, and for some circumstances are forced to stay together 2 days and 2 nights in Marseille, France, and everything in their lives change. Maybe it's a novel among my novels that I love.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's a moving story. Everybody says this, and I agree about fathers and sons and talent and hope and the courage of following your talent and the fear and so many things. It's not a long novel, but I love it, and I hope that it can also become a good movie. It's going to be published next year in UK and USA. It's already been published in France, Spain, Germany, and other countries. But I'm really, really waiting for the English edition for many reasons. Also because we hope that the movie can be with the English-speaking important actors. I can't say more.
I look forward to that greatly. You had me hooked with the title, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the fact when you said about a father and son who don't know each other. It sounds wonderful. Which brings me very neatly, thank you, Gianrico, to the writing that doesn't fall into the Guido Guerrieri series. Lest we forget, you first published in Italy in 2004 with The Past is a Foreign Country. And there have been a series of standalones, including such titles as Neither Here Nor Elsewhere, A Night in Bari, There Is No Wisdom, The Setting Free of Words, The Silence of the Waves, which I've mentioned, and the beautifully titled The Vertiginous Edge of Things, The Changing Truth, and The Cold Summer. Can you tell me what these novels, what this writing does allow you to say that you can't say with the Guerrieri series?
I don't know. I have to say something going back to Guerrieri, from my point of view, the Guerrieri novels are not a series. They are a single big novel with very big chapters that are the single books. It's the biography of this character. And so if it is like this, there's not a great difference between this very long and open-handed novel with the Guido Guerrieri and the others. What I'm interested in when I write is, as I said before, talking about people. I want to find interesting characters, hateful characters, lovely characters, or better characters that are at the same time different things, like in real life. And I like following their lives, their stories, their thoughts. And I like that the reader be allowed to be in intimacy with these characters. Probably this is the main reason why, probably, I don't know, they like my novels. But answering to your question, for me, it's the same thing.
With great writing, as is the case of you, come big audiences, translations into other languages, and as I mentioned in the introduction, 27 or so, but there also come prizes and accolades. And in 2005, you won the Premio Bancarello for Il Passata è un terra straniera, the film of which won the Night Grand Jury Prize, if I remember, at the Miami Film Festival. And you have won sort of accolades as well, honorary president of the Edinburgh Gadda Prize. What do these accolades, what do these prizes mean to you? Do they give you joy? Do they give you pleasure? Or do they add to the responsibility you already feel as a writer?
I think that literary prizes are just a game. It's a game. A game, yes.
Why so?
Because I don't think that if you win a prize, even if a very important prize, this is a certificate of your literary quality. And if you don't, this is a certificate that you are not a good writer, of course. There are so many reasons why you can win or not win a literary prize, even the Nobel Prize, we know, even the most important in the world. And so if I win a prize, of course, I'm happy. If I win an important prize, I'm very happy. But I like this kind of experience with sport modes. I'm not waiting for a verdict. I'm not waiting for the judges of this or one or another prize to say that I'm good or not good. I think that this is the job of the readers along the time, not of the judges in a single occasion. Because there are so many reasons why in a single moment you can say this book is very good, this book is fantastic, or this book is bad. The history of critics and literature is full of stories of great critics that said that very important writers were very bad, that very important books were very bad, and there are so many books that were so popular at the time and now are completely forgotten. The real judge is the time.
I like your point, and I like your argument very greatly. So tell me this, how much does the wide readership that you have mean to you, and do you like meeting your readers?
Absolutely, I love it. I have to point out an important thing about this. A meeting with your readers, it's interesting, it's important if you are meeting them. Sorry for this. What I mean, that you must be aware of a relationship with people you are meeting. Sometimes some writers or many writers go there for sort of a show, and this means they have a plot. They say things, and it doesn't matter who is in front of them, what they are asked, or things like this. This is not interesting. Once a friend of mine, an actress, I had to go on stage with a show from a book of mine, said to me one thing that I have never forgotten. She said, "You have to love them, talk about the audience." And this is absolutely true for an actor. I was somehow an actor then, but is true at the same time for a writer meeting the audience, meeting people, meeting persons. You have to be aware that you are talking with different persons and not to a bulk of people.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. Are you able to name the actress?
An Italian actress, no, she's not very famous. It's not important.
I'm sorry to hear that. You have you were the president of the Petrozelli Theatre in Bari, your hometown. Tell us, have you ever written a stage play? Have you written a screenplays? Have you written for stage screen?
I'm thinking about it now. I have I have some ideas. We have to check if they are good or not. And I don't know when I will try, but one of these ideas, I find it very, very funny. My idea is of writing this, something like a monologue, and to do that myself on stage. I don't know when. I've already done this, as I was saying, and I really love to stay there on stage. Also because I'm not an actor, of course. What I do is not exactly acting, it's talking. It's a sort of something in between a reading and a show. And I enjoy it.
Was there much dramatization or role of acting in advocacy in your role as a prosecutor?
What do you mean? I didn't understand.
We say with barristers here in the United Kingdom, often they have a very highly attuned sense of performance before a judge, before a jury. And I wonder whether you ever felt that sense of performance when you were a prosecutor.
I'm not very, very happy about this idea of performance when talking about trials and jail and convictions. And I think that there are differences between a prosecutor and a defense attorney. A prosecutor shouldn't be a performer, never, ever, because he or she has a special duty that is not winning the trial, but trying to establish justice. And so, of course, if or she is sure of his point of view, must be very effective. And there are also communication tools that can be used to be effective, especially in final arguments, but also in during cross-examination. That is a way of finding information, but it's also a way of communicating to the judges and to the jury. For a defense attorney, it's different. A defense attorney can sometimes perform because he or she has not a duty of truth. He has duties towards his client, and respecting the rules of his profession is the only goal of saving the client. But generally speaking, I don't like the idea of performance, of show. I don't like that kind of rhetoric. I like a very clean way of speaking and acting in front of a court.
That's very elegantly put and very diplomatically put, Gianrico. Thank you. There's one last thing I'd like to discuss with you, which comes back to what I said in the introduction. You have been translated into so many languages, and I know with your English language translations, you have worked with some fantastic translators, including Howard Curtis, Anthony Sugar, and of course, Patrick Cray. For your audience and for the Lockdown LitFest audience, can you talk me through a little bit, please, on how collaborative that is? How much conversation there is between you, the author, and your translator across all languages? And does it vary from language to language?
Well, I have to say that sometimes I have a few problems in reading my Japanese translations, and so I cannot control it. And this happens with many other languages. That at the moment are 30, there are 3 more. But with the languages that I can read, that basically are English, French, somehow Spanish. Of course, I talk sometimes with the translators when they have doubts during the translation, but then when I say we, I mean me and my agent, we read the translations, we somehow edit it. There are sometimes points that are not perfectly convincing. And we have this conversation that mostly is by emails, but sometimes also directly talking. And there is always a very, very strong spirit of cooperation. I've never had any problems with, especially my English translator. Yes.
Writing is such a lonely, solo endeavor. Do you like the collaborative aspect of translation, or does it get in the way? What is your feeling on this?
I like, generally speaking, the collaborative side of every intellectual job. And in fact, the part of the writing that I enjoy most is the editing with the editor. That means that the book has already been written, and so you don't feel anxious anymore. And it's a very nice job, work on the text that is not the final text, but it is very close. It's like carving in a very, very subtle way. Michelangelo used to say that carving is the art of taking off. And I think that this is true also for writing, because the most important part of writing is when you are finishing and you have to take off something, maybe something that you really like writing, but it is too much. Because we can go back to the what we were saying about the relationship between writer and readers. It is very important. It is crucial from my point of view that in a good novel there are white spaces for the reader. That, in other words, means that in a good novel, what is most important, it is not what you can find, but what you can't find, the void, the space where the reader can go, stay, and practice his or her personal creativity in a sort of alliance, complicity with the writer. Every act of reading is, in a proper way, an act of creativity. There is the creation of the writer, and then there is the creation of the reader if the book is well written, and if there are I call them white spaces for the reader.
I couldn't have put it better myself and wouldn't even have tried, but I think you're quite right. And I've had this conversation with so many authors who realize that they've written their book, but the reader will read their book, and there are as many books for the one book as there are readers of that book. I think it's absolutely correct. And of course, in any creative writing class, a good teacher will say it's not about getting your story onto the page. The important bit is getting your story from the page into the reader's mind and allowing them to make it their book, which is where your white spaces come in. Gianrico, we have to end, but while we've been talking, I've had a message through and I've been asked to give you the biggest virtual hugs from your publicist at Bitter Lemon Press, Alex, and from the whole team at Bitter Lemon Press, who are so proud and so privileged to be your publishers here in the UK. So please accept hugs from them, and please accept the sincerest gratitude. I know how busy you are. I also know that you are in the running for a very big literary prize. So from all of us at Lockdown LitFest, very good luck, notwithstanding your comments on literary prizes. We hope you win it. Gianrico Carofiglio, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your writing, which has given me and so many people here in the UK and in the English-speaking world and other countries with other languages, such great, great pleasure. Gianrico Carofiglio, it's been such an honor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to join us. We do value the time you spend with us. We hope we give you something to think about, something to entertain you, something to take your minds off the fact that we are still locked down, although the grip is being released as we have this conversation with Gianrico today. I'm sorry I didn't get to talk to Gianrico about the lockdown situation in Italy, but we're all reading the press and we wish him the best, I'm sure. As ever, we hope you're well, we hope you're taking care, and we hope that you are loved and being loved by those around you. From all at the Lockdown LitFest, cheerio.